Jags fans, we are joined by Thistle royalty today for our latest lockdown interview. Club record 624 first team appearances, with 51 of his 53 Scottish caps earned while at Firhill. Quite astonishing. And not to forget, a member of the class of 1971, which I'm sure we'll talk about. It's the one and only Alan Rough. And I've got permission to call you Ruffy. Ruffy, how are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Yep, obviously great now. The football's beginning to get up and running. Unfortunately for us, we're not until early October, but we're getting there, and I think we're all anticipating a good season.
Yes, absolutely. Fingers crossed. It's been an extraordinary 2020. How have you coped yourself?
Basically the same as everybody else. You know, obviously when we were in isolation, it was gardening, it was painting, it was. I think I bought a hedge cutter and started cutting every hedge it was in the vicinity. So, you know, and painting as well. So the garden's looking absolutely fantastic. But no, I think it's the same for everybody. I think we'll just try to turn our hands to anything we could do.
Safe hands with you, Ruffy. Before we begin, I mean, you get asked about your Thistle career a lot. I guess there's some recurring questions. What do people want to know the most? We'll probably go into them inevitably, but yeah. What's top of the list?
It's obviously 71. You know, it's obviously, you know, what it was like, and everybody wants to know part of that, and particularly next year when it's our anniversary of that game, you know, and it just seems so long ago that it happened, but Thistle supporters remember it, particularly the older ones who were lucky enough to be there on the day, and it's fantastic, you know, to win that kind of thing.
Brilliant. Well, we will talk about that. We'll hopefully find out a wee bit more about the cup run, but let's learn a bit more about your career and go way back to the start. You were a Knightswood boy. Did you always want to be a goalkeeper? When did that kick off?
Well, it actually started before that. I actually moved to Knightswood, but believe it or not, from I was 5 till 11, I was a Maryhill boy.
Is that right?
I actually stayed in Doncaster Street, which was a goal kick away from Firhill, as you can imagine, and I used to go up there as a young boy and get the autographs, Neil Duffy and, you know, Jimmy Cowan and all these boys, Sandy Brown. And I used to skip in at half time. I used to wait till the gates were opened. I don't know, I still can't get my head around that, why that top gate was always opened at half time, and we all used to skip in and watch the games and collect the ginger bottles, and as all young kids did then. So I was early at Maryhill, you know, I was a Maryhill boy, and then I obviously moved to Knightswood.
And you were playing school football at that point?
School football, yes. Played like anybody playing any football. You know, played for the BB in the morning, played for the school in the afternoon. Many games as you could cram in. I was the same as everybody else. And, you know, then we had a wee youth team, which started in Knightswood. A local guy, a resident, you know, started up a under-16 team, which we all joined in because it was a multi-storey flats we stayed in. So it was a big community thing to have a football team. It was a big thing away back then, because obviously all the guys came for the flats, and we were all pals. So that's how it really started. But at school days, you know, I was always in goals. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people will experience this themselves when primary school, actually, when the bell went. You know, any time you went into the playground, it was a game of football. And it's a story that everybody will know. I mean, you used to all line up, and the two best players would pick the sides. It was always the two best players, and they would pick the second best, pick the third best. And lo and behold, I was always last picked, you know, and last pick always got thrown in goals. And that's how it started. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't have been much good outfield then, but I always get flung in goals, and then I started to get to like it. You know, I really liked it. I mean, obviously no diving about the concrete in the playground, but that's when it all started for me at school.
Developed an act very quickly. Any other players from that sort of Knightswood, Lincoln area?
The Knightswood, I had a couple of a wee boy called Willie McGrotty, who was at Knightswood in my school. He went down to Blackpool. And I think Robert Cuthbertson, another boy, went down to England as well. But I don't think it really took off for them, you know. And I have to be perfectly honest, we had a poor Knightswood side. You know, I don't know if it was the practice I used to get that helped me later on in life, because we used to get 10-0 every week by the good teams for Drumchapel, the Kingsridge and the St Pius and all them. They used to come down and absolutely hammer us. So I must have got a lot of practice. But I never ever get picked for any squads. I never get picked for schoolboys. I never played nothing at all at school. Not even a hint of playing representative honours, which is, I always sort of shake my head at that and I wonder what happened. Maybe our team were that bad and nobody came to watch us.
Yeah, but your obviously pathway was kind of born at that stage, and was it Thistle under 16s you first? That was your kind of first route to Firhill. It
was ironic how it all started. It was a bit of luck. I remember it as clear as anything. I was playing with the Avon Glen team for the Flats, and the boy that ran the team, a boy called Archie Schooler, he also ran an under-21 side in the afternoon. And we played in the morning, the under-16 team. I was 15 at the time. And one afternoon, his goalkeeper called off very, very late in the day. And he said to me, did I want to come and play in it? My dad was a wee bit anxious that I was only 15. And it was an under-21 game, which was pretty grown up at that time. And it was done at Bartley Curl at Anniesland. It was a grass park, believe it or not. I mean, we all used to play in ash and red ash and whatever. Mm-hmm. So my dad eventually said, yeah, you give it a go. So I went and played in this under-21 game. And lo and behold, the Thistle chief scout at that time was Jimmy Dickey. And Jimmy Dickey was supposed to go and watch a player who was playing at Anniesland for Glasgow University, and their game was cancelled. And he just needed a game to come and see, and he came across the road to Anniesland to where our game was, and we played, and I think we won 2-0. I must have played particularly well that day. And after the game, he came up to my dad and said, how would your son like to come up to Thistle and train with the under-16s and see where it goes for there? And that's how it happened. It was just a spot. I mean, I don't know if it would have happened later on, but that's how it happened that day. And it was funny because I was that keen to get there. I went up the next Tuesday and the whole place was locked up. And I thought it was a wind-up because I came a week too early. I was that keen to get up there that I'd went a week too early, but I rectified it the next week. And then it just all kicked off for there. I went into the Partick Thistle under-16 team, which is a feeder club before you went to Sight Hill.
And things happened, quite quickly for you because, as we'll come to, you became established as a first-team goalkeeper in your teenage years. So what happened next? What made you make that jump, I guess, from school football and right up to...
It just so happened that quick, obviously, under-16s with Thistle. I was only there about a year, and then I got elevated to the Sight Hill team with Eddie McCulloch, and that was a feeder club for all the younger boys because it was Davy Walters and all these boys all went up, had a chance to go into the reserves at Thistle, and I was no different. It was a fantastic team, Sight Hill, run by Eddie. We won everything. We cleared up. We used to win the leagues and cups, and it was a really, really good feeder club for the top team. But and then I got elevated to the reserves with Dave McParlin when Dave McParlin took over.
And from there, I think one of the kind of Thistle historians, Stuart Dean's picked out your reserve debut. He thought it might have been a 5-each draw at Ibrox. Does that ring a bell?
The reserve one, I remember as clear as anything because, again, the older members of the club will remember that there was the old League Cup system, and the League Cup system, it was always Rangers, Celtic and Partick Thistle and a other, and whatever section you were in, that's what the reserves played. So it was just a form of a replica of that. So we had Rangers and Celtic all the time, and Dave McParlin said, I'm going to give you your first reserve game at Ibrox. And again, way back then, I mean, when I turned up, it was practically the Rangers' first team. you know, because that's the way it was in the reserves. Anybody who wasn't in the first team played in the reserves. So you were playing against Alec McDonald and all these players. But I know it was, I don't remember much about the day, but I do remember it was 5 each. In fact, there's a story to go with that. And I have to correct myself because another young goalkeeper at the club at the time was a boy called Billy Vance. And I put this game down to Billy, and I think I've been told through the grapevine that it wasn't Billy. There must have been another young goalkeeper. But anyway, this was a really tough section, and obviously Rangers and Celtic were going to win it. And we knew it like they were with the teams that were playing. In the very last game of that section, Celtic had to win 12-0 to beat Rangers in goal difference. And I remember Dave McParlin saying to me, Alan, he said, I think this is just one step too far for you. Because if you go into that game and we get beat 12-0, you might not recover for it. So I'm going to leave you out and I'm going to play this other young boy. Now, I thought it was Billy. Billy said it wasn't him, so it must have been somebody else. But lo and behold, Celtic won 13-0. And I don't know who the young lad was, but I don't think he ever played. I don't think he ever played again. So it just shows you how lucky you can be to miss games.
Yeah, good, careful management from McParlin. And then the next kind of bridge for you to cross was from reserve team football, and you know the first team. When do you remember the day you kind of signed terms with the club?
I don't know when. I remember when I went full time, and I remember as clear as anything. I remember Dave McParlin. I signed with Scott Simon. Scott Simon and Willie Thornton were there. I don't know why the two of them. Maybe they were just changing over. But it was one of the two of them that I signed full time with. I'll never forget my first training day at Dave McParlin. I was standing in the foyer with my gear on, and he says, "Right, son, you just go out and join the first team players, and they'll be warming up, you know, and you just join in." And I went out onto the track because that's where they trained on the track, and I'm looking about and I couldn't see anybody. The next minute I saw a group of guys up on the top wall standing having a cigarette. And that was the pre-match. And Sammy Keane was a trainer. Sammy Keane, and you had all the old players there, and they're having a wee puff of a cigarette before they started. And I'm shaking my head, going, "Is this it? Is this what this is going to be like?" But no, they were great guys. They were great. But as you said, my first game, I don't remember much about my first game against Morton. I know it was a midweek game, and I think we get beat 2-1. But I certainly remember my next game, because my next game was on the Saturday against Ayr United. And again, they had a centre forward called Dixie Ingram, who absolutely battered me all over the ground. I'll never forget that day. It was an eye opener to what the old style centre forward used to be like, and I always remember that game.
That would have been, I'm looking at the book here. That would have been the last game of that season down at Somerset. Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you got a taste for first team football. Thistle were relegated as it happened. But the next season was to be quite remarkable, and the season after that even more so. You became ever present at the age of what, 18, 19?
Be 18 then. I was 18 just turning 19. Yeah, and that season when we went down that division, Robert Reid always tells me that I think we lost our first two games. And then we went on an undefeated run for most of the season. So I think Stirling Albion was the first game. Down at Stirling Albion, I remember that game. And then after that, obviously, we just kicked off.
Aye, so 36 appearances in the league as we bounced straight back up. What was that like for you, for your development at that age, to get that amount of football?
Fantastic. We keep talking about modern day players, young players, really good players who come into the game and they only play about 10 games and then they get sold somewhere else. I don't think you actually learn your trade until you've had a certain number of games under your belt, maybe 30, 40. Because obviously early on you're very nervous. You're just starting off wondering whether you're going to make the grade or not. So no, I think Dave McParlin, and there was a few youngins in there. John Hansen was quite young. Alan Forsyth was quite young. So, you know, Davey done well, you know, sticking by us all. You know, he never took us out of it. And you generally when you play a wee while and then younger players get taken out because they think it's too much. But Davy just left us in and let us deal with everything that was there. And obviously they got the experience for that.
Yeah. Worth pausing to ask you about David McParland, because clearly, one of the greatest eras for Partick Thistle Football Club. It had a huge impact on your career. What was your relationship with him like?
Well, he was a father figure. He was the old school, blazers and slacks and, always immaculate, and like the old school management, they always knew what you were up to. He would know where you were at the weekend and he knew what you were doing. And he just was a father figure, he made you go in the right direction, to behave properly, and you've got a whole career in front of you, and just to be concentrating the football, and that's what he did. But my biggest thing, as I said to you just earlier there, I think he was prepared to give you a chance. Didn't matter how young you were, you got a chance, which I think nowadays is a failing with a lot of clubs when young players don't get a chance. I mean, as I say, I was breaking into the team at 17, 18. There isn't many players get that chance now. Sometimes they've got to wait to 20, 21. Obviously, the way football is, there's a lot of influx of foreign players coming in. But Davy always gave us a chance, and that was the main thing.
Yeah. The following season, so much to talk about in the League Cup, which we'll come to in a minute, but people forget a very successful league campaign. Did the double over Rangers opening day and New Year's Day, thrashed Motherwell 8-3, finished 7th in our first season back up. So putting the League Cup aside, it was a successful season.
Yeah, I remember these two games you talked about. I remember the first one, full house against Rangers at home. I think we won 3-2, didn't we?
That's right.
Did John Gibson score the winner?
Coulston and a Gibson double, 24,539.
Unbelievable,
amazing.
Isn't it? I always remember them hanging over that wall. The big wall, the big giant wall. I remember that was always jam-packed. But no, that was a lovely summer's there. I remember that, funnily enough, that game in the 8-3 game, I'd remember because I always remember Tam Cowan, who's a big Motherwell supporter, and that we beat Motherwell 8-3, so he hates me bringing it up. So that was a super day as well.
Aye. But something else happened that year. Went through 12 games to win the League Cup. And we'll pause. We'll come back to the final in a minute. But just the last 3 games towards that success, lost away to St Johnstone 2-0 in the first leg of the quarter final. So up against it there, and then St Johnstone team featuring a certain John Lambie came to Firhill and 5-1. What do you remember of that?
Oh, I just remember it was one of the nights. It was everybody in top form, and they had a good side there. I think John Connolly and Jim Pearson, and they had a really, really good side. But it was one of the nights. The goals were just flying in, and sometimes when you get that kind of momentum, you're unstoppable, and that's what it was. It was just a fantastic night, midweek, and it was a midweek game.
Yeah.
And I just remember every time with a shot at goal, it was a goal.
And that was only 2 days after the first leg. Not uncommon in those days to have games so tightly squeezed together. Yeah.
Yeah, you always get teams complaining about, we're playing too many games. I don't think that game could come quick enough, because, I think we were playing well at that time.
And then early the next month, October the 4th it was, played Falkirk 2-0, Dennis McQuaid double. Huge game. Alex Ferguson playing for Falkirk, I believe.
Right. See if you can remember the other striker.
For Falkirk?
Uh-huh.
There'll be Jags fans aplenty shouting at the screen with this. Who would it have been?
Yeah. He played for the Jags and then became to be a Scotland manager. I'll tell you. Andy Roxburgh. Andy Roxburgh.
Brain was frozen there.
He was the other striker. And I think that was a good move for us because we, as I say, we were quite a lot of young boys in that Thistle team, and I think that was the first time we'd ever been to Hampden. We'd ever actually been in Hampden, never mind playing in it. So I think that gave us a wee idea if we'd won the game, what it was going to be like if we did win it, if we got to the final. So big experience that night, playing in a massive part in a massive stadium. But Dennis, as you rightly said, there scored a couple.
You'd go on to play so much football at Hampden. Was that your first
Yeah, I
appearance?
think that was the first time ever. Yeah, first time ever. I mean, I played in the Scotland youth team in a tournament, but they were played Somerset, Motherwell. One of the games was at Firhill, funny enough. Right. But I'd never played at Hampden. I played at Ibrox, so I played at Parkhead, but not Hampden.
So Hampden debut, clean sheet, take the club to the final. I mean, we could do a whole number of hours talking about that. October the 23rd, 1971. I just want to hear your perspective of it that day, the game, and obviously the celebrations after. What do you remember?
Well, I had a really funny start to that day because I was still staying with my mum and dad in Lincoln Avenue, and we used to go for pre-season meal to Esquire House, Miller Redo, and that's where we met. So that's where we're meeting for the pre-season meal. Pre-match meal. Yep. And, you know, I didn't have a car at that time. I was only 19. And I had to go for the bus. I'll never forget this. I had to go for the 11A bus at the corner of Lincoln Avenue to get the bus up to Anniesland to Esquire House. And I remember getting on the bus. And the bus came for, I think 11A came for Drumchapel area. And it was full of Celtic supporters. And there was one seat on the bus that was up the top. And I just sat down and they had all their Celtic scarves on. They were all singing and thinging. And this boy turned around to me and he says, "Where are you going today, son?" I'll never forget that. I said, "I'm going for a game of football." And he, "Oh, very good, very good." And I remember as I was leaving the bus, he turned around to me and says, "Well, all the best." He says, "I hope everything goes all right for you today." I felt it turning around going, "I bet you don't."
Amazing.
So I got off the bus at Esquire House and went into Esquire House in the pre-match meal. The other thing about pre-match meal was there was absolutely no nutrition at all. No, yeah, I mean nowadays everybody watches what they eat and everything before a game. I had a steak and chips. And I think I also ate half a Bobby Lorry's, who didn't eat it all. And this is before a cup final, and I just these are things I just remember. But going to the game, I think the bus was really quiet. I don't think the expectation wasn't there. It was because we'd never been there before, so we didn't know what to expect. So, but you're driving into Hampden, and anybody who tells you when you drive into Hampden in a big game, it's an international or a cup final, it's an amazing sight seeing all the supporters enjoying themselves walking along Mount Florida, and that was the good thing about it. There was loads of Thistle supporters all passing when the bus is passing by, and that made you relax a wee bit more when we got to the stadium itself. But it was awesome just turning up, seeing the stadium. The stadium looked 3 times the size as what it was the last time we were there. Yeah. But when you go out on the park, it's just I'd be lying to say we weren't all nervous. I'd be lying that, but with the anticipation of actually getting the game going, that's when you sort of relax a wee bit.
Yeah. Remember anything about the team talk?
I remember Dave McParlin saying to Ronnie Glavin, "If you get a chance to get near Jimmy Johnson, just let him know you're there." But I think Ronnie took it a bit on board. And I think it was the first tackle, I think he halved him in 2, and I think Jinky get taken off. Yeah. I think it was quite a hard tackle, but maybe that was a good thing for us because Jinky was absolutely magnificent then. But as the supporters will know, the first half was just unbelievable. You know, every time we went up the park, we had a shot at goal and it just went in the back of the net. And I mean, honestly, the first half had absolutely nothing to do. A couple of crosses. I can't remember anybody having a shot. I just can't. And then obviously we're 4-0 up, and the half-time whistle was, and we went into the dressing room. It was the quietest dressing. You would think everybody would be jumping about, going, "Oh, fantastic," but it was so quiet. Everybody was just sitting there. I couldn't believe. But the other side of the story is we knew what Celtic were like. We knew it was 4-0, but we knew it could quite easily be 6-4 or whatever, because that's the kind of the team that Celtic had. So I think Dave McParlin just sort of kept us on the ground. And anybody who was at that game, when the second half started, we could have had another 2. right at the very start. You know, I think it was Frank or Dennis who broke through, and we could have been 6-0 up. You know, it sounds crazy. Yeah. But then obviously after that, Celtic got their act together, and I think the last 25 minutes, something like that, they really turned it on. But fortunately, they never got there. I think Kenny scored late on, about 78 or something like that. So they sort of ran out of time, more than anything else.
The final whistle,
final whistle goes, and it's just, you just can't believe what's happened. I don't think anybody could believe what was happening. But my immediate reaction was, could we start again? You know, could we start again? Because it all happened that quick.
So quickly.
You know, and you felt, oh my God, could we just gaze the same score and let us start again so we could really enjoy it? Because you don't enjoy it. You don't. It's too nerve-wracking. And obviously afterwards, the celebrations were magnificent. The only other thing I remember is, way back then, obviously when you won a cup, you get a double-decker bus. You know, obviously somebody thought we weren't going to win that cup, but we got a single-decker. And it's very difficult trying to get a cup out a window in a single-decker bus. And I remember John Hanson, and I think it was Jimmy Bowen, were trying to get this, you know, the vent, the whole vent. They were trying to get this open so they could stick their head out of the cup, and it just didn't happen, you know. But no, it was a great day, and obviously we get back to Firhill, and I think we get back, because we're all going to change. Well, we're going out, win or lose. There was a function suite had been booked down at George Square, so win or lose, well, we're going out anyway. So we went back there and get changed into some of the most ridiculous gear you've ever seen in your life. If you get a chance to see some of the photos, I think we'd all velvet suits on. I don't know why, but we all seem to have a fashion for velvet suits and outrageous shirts and big bow ties. But it was a fantastic night, as you can imagine.
Yeah. And, you know, little did we know, 50 years on, we've not managed to win another major trophy. That just adds to the magic of that memory. And I guess there must be a real bond between you and not just the guys who took to the pitch that day, but the others who were involved in the cup run in the squad.
Yeah,
and as you say, next year will be a big one to remember it.
Yeah, and fortunately enough, we're all still alive. You know, and that's the good thing about it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of teams have things for 50 years ago and they're not allowed to celebrate it. So the boys are still physically active. So I'm sure the club will have something organised, you know, for that particular year. But no, and the boys will all turn up. They like a good day out. They've been up already. I think they were up at one of the games. I think Jackie and Jerry had invited to them to one of the games, and they were all there. And it was a great day, just chatting about everything we're chatting about just now, and the memories that were with us.
Yeah. So 7th in the League Cup win, a hell of a season. The one thing that does bring is European football, which followed the next year. When Honved came to town, a pretty decent team.
Well, away from home, I think we thought we'd done quite well. You know, they were a good side in their league, you know, but I honestly thought we had a chance when they came over here. But obviously, when they came over here, they were a lot better than what they were in the first half, and they beat us quite comfortably. And it's another wee stat as well. I mean, obviously, I played in another game, but the Honved game is I only played in a European tie twice. Once with Partick Thistle and once with Celtic, and both of the games were against Honved,
right.
which is absolutely remarkable.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
Look, we're going to have to apologise because we're going to skip through seasons as if they don't exist just because of your longevity at the club. But the next few seasons, Thistle were established consistently mid-table. Then reconstruction came along, but we came back as champions again straight away. That's now 1976 centenary year, so a special one, but comes a special one for you because you make your Scotland debut. How much, you know, did that mean to you to represent your country?
Oh, fantastic! As I said, I'd played in the under-23 side for 2 or 3 years, and it was a good night because I remember a lot of the boys. That's why I think the failure of the Scottish national team has been that the players underneath the under-21s haven't progressed as much or getting the chance to progress. But that under-23 team that I played with for a couple of years, it was me, Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, Asa Hartford, Joe Jordan, and we all went up at the one time. We all sort of got promoted into the squad. So first game was against Switzerland at Hampden. I think it was basically because I got a chance again, because I think David Harvey had called off from that game in particular. He was the number one keeper. So I was given a chance, and it's great when you're playing, you're playing international football. And it's great that the club gets a spin off of it as well, because when you come back after, everybody's talking about it, and it's great. And it was always good for the club, and it was always a highlight for me, playing for Scotland, because I always get a wee sort of a titter to myself when the teams used to go on the team line. The teams would go on the telly, and it'd have like Souness Liverpool, Dalglish Liverpool, Hartford Man City, Notts Forest, Odds Spurs Archibald, and then it had rough Partick Thistle at the top. Kenny Dalglish always used to wind me up, and he went, "You need to get a bigger club, for God's sake." He says, "You're letting everybody down." I say, "No, this is my club. This is my club, whether you like it or no." And I used to love it. I used to actually love it, even in the programmes when it said Partick Thistle, Alan Rough Partick Thistle. It was great. And I just a wee quick story just to tell you that year. When was the Jubilee? Queen's Jubilee. Was that run a bit then? It must have been run a bit then.
Yeah. Carry on, I'll get the date.
Anyway, it was the Queen's Jubilee, and it was a Glasgow Select versus a Manchester Select, something like that. And the Queen was at the game, and at the line up on the park, we were told she was going to come out and just shake our hands and move on. And I was standing beside Kenny Dalglish, and she came out, and she says to Kenny, "Oh, Kenny, your team's doing particularly well." And Kenny went, yeah. And she came to me and she went, "Alan, you'll have to buck up your ideas this year." I'll never forget that.
Is that right?
Obviously, somebody must gen them, before they come out. But she was as sharp as anything. She said, "You have to start winning games." It was brilliant. But no, that was my first cap against Switzerland. And believe it or not, my first 16 games for Scotland, I think we only lost 2 games.
Is that right?
That just shows you the squad that we had and the players that we had. It was fantastic.
I guess the point there would be that if you've been playing for Partick Thistle and not getting in the Scotland team or Scotland squad, there'd have been an issue for you. But being the Thistle goalkeeper didn't hold back your international achievements, did it?
No, I don't know what it was. Crowds never bothered me, and I was always nervous like everybody else. But going out in front of 60,000 and 70,000, didn't bother me. I mean, I remember my first game at Wembley against England. There was 100,000 at Wembley, and the week beforehand we had played Dumbarton, and I think it was 2,000. And Dalglish used to always wind me up, "Oh, there's 100,000 up there. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to do this and all that stuff?" But it didn't really bother me, I just got on with it. And I always had the mental attitude that if you go out and feel inferior to the opposition, you're going to be like that. I mean, the first England game I had, there was Kevin Keegan and Emlyn Hughes and Ray Clements, and standing in the tunnel, if you let that get to you, then you're just not going to go enjoy yourself when you get there.
Yeah. 1977, I think, if I'm right, would have been the Queen's Silver Jubilee year. So that would have been around the time. So what was it? I guess spin-off from that might have been you coming back to the club, telling stories about your time in Scotland. Must have been good for the rest of the squad to have that in the environment. Yeah,
it was, because, I mean, and obviously we moved on for 71, but there was other boys starting to play for the team. And I missed that out there, that in 71, or 71 team, there was 6 of that team went on to play for Scotland. So there was a lot of things happening at the club at the time. I mean, John Hanson got a cap for Scotland, Ronnie Glavin got a cap, Alec Forsyth, Dennis McQuaid, myself. So it was a team going places. It was just unfortunate sort of broke up. But you're right, when the rest of the boys started getting caps, it made it a really good, happy atmosphere to come back for these games.
Finally, on Scotland, World Cup's obviously come up as being the pinnacle of anyone's career. Would that be your personal highlight from your Scotland career, or is there a moment or a game that you look back on with the most pride?
Well, obviously for the club level, it's going to be the League Cup. But the international level, yeah. But unfortunately, we didn't do particularly well at the World Cups, which was a disappointment. But you're right, to manage to get to 3 World Cup finals is just unthinkable for me. We're obviously playing with Partick Thistle, but it was great for the club, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I mean, to say that you played against Brazil twice, once in the Maracana Stadium, there was 140,000 at it, and once in the World Cup, it's just unbelievable. I mean, again, when we're in the Maracana, when they shout out "Rough Partick Thistle," it's difficult, to get your real head round until you're actually there,
That was, I said finally, but one more. A wee bit frustrating though when people do look back at those World Cups and they just see the disappointment that you didn't maybe do as well as you could. It overrides the success of coming through tough qualifying and how well you played in that, and how, I guess, just how tough it was at that time as well, playing the likes of the Dutch and the Brazilians.
Yeah, well, as I said, we had a fantastic squad. I mean, I remember, I think we played Holland at home and we beat them 3-0, which is, again, unthinkable. And the Belgium, we used to beat them regular as well. But no, I keep going back to the quality of the teams then, and unfortunately, we've not got that quality now. And I remember when we played New Zealand in '82, we were standing in the lineup. And you're not going to believe this. And you'll get a chance to see that photograph, or if you see it again. In that lineup, there was 11 players, obviously, in the lineup at the national anthem. And 7 of them had European Cup winners' medals. Now, that's hard to believe. Well, I always throw my League Cup medal into that one.
Absolutely.
So it's 7 European Cup medals and my League Cup medal. So that just shows you the quality of the Scotland side then.
Carry on.
And we had a striker who played for Barcelona. Stevie Archibald.
Any players from your time at Thistle who you thought they didn't get a cap for Scotland, but they should have? Who was the one that you maybe thought could have?
Well, it was a mixture of the youth. Most of the boys I spoke about, Bobby Houston. I thought Jock Stein thought very highly of Bobby Houston. And I think Jock Stein was going to try and take him down to Leeds United when he went down there, but it never happened for whatever reason. But no, I thought Bobby, could have handled playing for Scotland. There's not, as I say, John and Dennis and Alec and Ronnie all got a chance to play. Mm-hmm. Frank and Jimmy played for Scotland as well, Jimmy Bowen. Mm-hmm. So I forgot about Jimmy there. So most of the Alec Ray and Hugh and Jackie were sort of older part of the side, but no, most of the younger ones did particularly well.
At a time that it wasn't easy to get in, was it? Because the competition was fierce. Right. Yeah. Back to Thistle. After playing under Davy, you also played under Bertie Auld and Peter Cormack as well. Different management styles, I guess. How did you enjoy the Bertie Auld experience?
Well, me and Bertie didn't particularly get on particularly well. We didn't get on particularly well a lot of times, but there was a lot of times when I've spoken to him on numerous occasions, and he always, once he's had a few drinks, and he said, "Oh, it was for your own good, son. I just punished you to make you better." And I get my head around that, but no, he would bring me in for extra training, and on a Sunday, and he would, and I get where he was coming from, but I mean, when you're an individual and you feel as if you're being picked on all the time, mm-hmm. And I don't think he picked on me deliberately. It's just because I was the sort of a Scottish internationalist. And if I was toeing the line and doing whatever he was saying, then everybody else was toeing the line. Mm-hmm. So, but we got on particularly well now. But chalk and cheese with Peter Cormack. Peter was the nicest guy you could ever meet. I don't even remember Peter raising his voice to anybody. And it's all about man management. It's all about how you treat players. And both of them had their own way of treating players. And you either liked it or you didn't like it. Bertie was the exact opposite. He'd come in and old school slaughter anybody in the dressing room, and it was always, the Thistle dressing room was a massive dressing room, massive, and it obviously went from 1 to 11, and half the team were down one side and half the team were on the other wall. And if it was somebody that was getting it in the other wall, it was actually quite funny because you could see, enjoy what was happening. And some of it was funny, but there were great times. And every manager's different. Every manager has his own stamp on a team.
Yeah. Quickly on that, you get asked back into training extra on a Sunday. What did that look like in those days for a goalkeeper? How much was that goalkeeping training? How much was it fitness?
No, it was just extra training. You know, he would bring me in, and behind the bottom in the winter time, behind the bottom goal, there was a sand pit that was about 4 feet deep, and that's where I used to train in. You know, I would train in that sand, 4 feet deep, just diving about like a lunatic. And he would always say, like, you'll get the benefit of this, you'll get this, and your legs will be stronger, and when you're on a natural surface, you'll feel as if I mean, I got where he was coming from, but for me, bringing me in after a game on a Saturday and a Sunday, for me, was a punishment.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. But in the long run, it didn't do me any harm.
Aye. So you spent 12 years at Thistle and all, earned a testimonial before you left for Hibs. There was obviously quite a lot of interest in you. Were you close to going elsewhere?
If you listen to wee Bertie, I could have been everywhere. I could have been. I'll start off. This is no wee Bertie. In fact, a lot of people not remember that after the League Cup final in '71, which was the Saturday, on the Monday, Terry Neal and Tommy Docherty for Hull City came into Thistle on the Monday and bid 60,000 for me. That was 2 days after the Cup final. And Dave McParlin called me into the office and said, "Look, Alan," he says, "don't think this is the right move for you. There'll be other chances." And me being young at the time, just believed everything Davey said. And it never materialised, not because of people trying to get me, just the club didn't want to let me go, you know. But if you listen to wee Bertie could have had me at Man City, had me at Middlesbrough, he could have had me all over the place. He said, "I used to get phone calls all the time, but I wasn't letting you go," and that was it, you know. That's the way it is.
So but that offer was on the Monday after the League Cup final. Were you home
Monday? Yet? I remember going into the front door, and I remember Tommy Duck saying, "Hello, son, how are you?" And I said, "Fine, thanks. Good result on Saturday." I went, "Yeah," and we went training, and he hauled me into the office after it and said, "Look, I've just had a bid, we've turned it down," and that was that. That was that. But the Hibs ones was. Going to Hibs was even stranger. I think we were struggling a wee bit financially. I think things were pretty tight. And I remember coming in one morning and Molly said to me, "You have to come in tonight at 6 o'clock. And I said, "What for?" And she says, "I don't know, you've just been told." So I came in at 6 o'clock and I was sitting in Peter Cormack's office and he came in and he says, what are you doing?" I says, "I've been told to come in at 6 o'clock. He didn't know anything about it.
Is that right?
He didn't know anything about it. And obviously, "Oh, just give me 5 minutes and I'll come back in." And he came back in and he said, "You've been sold to Hibs."
Wow.
The directors have sold you to Hibs. I think it was 80,000 or something like that. You have to get in a car and you have to drive through to Edinburgh where you'll meet Kenny Walk in a hotel. And the deal's been done, so you're just to do your own deal. And I'll tell you this wee story. I shouldn't really, but I will. And I'd never transferred before. I'd never had any money out of the game whatsoever. No, nothing. Not that it bothered me because we just enjoyed playing football. But way back then, you never talked about signing on fees and how much you were on and all that. So I'd said to Peter, who played with Liverpool, and I said, "Look, Peter, I've never been transferred before. I've been at the club a long time. I'm going through to meet somebody and they're going to offer me something. What do you think I should be looking for? It's a 3-year contract." And he said to me, "Well, I think 5,000 a year. If you got 15,000 for 3-year contract, I think you're doing well." So I've got this in my head, driving through all the way to Edinburgh. I go into Edinburgh, Kenny Walk comes into a hotel room and he goes, "Well, son, thanks very much. We're glad to get you. Pat Stanton's really looking forward to it. I can't hang about. I'm sponsoring a boxing night. What about signing on fee? What are you thinking about?" And I was just about to say 15, and he went, "Is 30 okay?" I'll never forget that. I was just about to say 15, and he went, "It's 30, okay, right, good. See you later. See you Monday." And he toddled away. It was just surreal, to tell you the truth.
That clearly all happened very, very quickly. Did you have a chance to reflect and think, you must have been sad to leave after such a long time?
Oh, I was, but I think it was the fact that I'd been there so long. It was actually 12 years playing, but the other 3 years I've been there 15 years all in total, and everybody kept saying to me, "Oh, you need to go to a big club, you need to do this, you're going to regret not going to England, you're going to regret this." But it didn't bother me because I loved Thistle and I loved being there for so long. I just became part of everything. And when you're at a club that long, you don't think about going anywhere else because you're coming in at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're loving meeting all your mates, and it's a great family club. Supporters are fantastic, and you don't think about what you're missing out. But it came to me, I got a chance to move, and it had nothing to do with I wanted to leave. I mean, if it hadn't happened that day, I'd probably still been there. I'd still been part of this all the time because I never asked for it. I never went and chapped the door and said, "Look, I need to get out of here." But no, that's the way it happened.
And you went on to play for Hibs then, obviously Celtic, Aki's there, time abroad as well. We've talked about the Mara Canal, we've talked about Firhill, Hampden, all those. Aside from the clubs you played for, was there any grounds that you really relished going to, or you felt you played your best at?
I just love playing at big grounds. I used to love playing at Ibrox, Parkhead, Pittodrie. I just loved it. It was great because you knew you were going to be in the game all the time. You knew you were going to be active. You knew you were the crowd. The crowds excited me. I just loved playing in front of big crowds, and obviously you want to play well. And if you're playing well, then the club's playing well. And there was nothing better. Partick Thistle, if you're going up to Aberdeen and getting a win, or going to Parkhead or Rangers. It didn't happen very often, but when it did happen, it just made everything worthwhile.
Yeah. Right, I've stuck a wee post on the Thistle Facebook page last night, popular with supporters, and got brilliant feedback. So I'm just going to run through a few of these, test your memory, see if you remember these moments. Just about everyone who responded brought up this phrase that you were worth 12 points a season. I think that might even have been a Bertie Auld quote, but that was a common bit of feedback, and just the fact you were such a great shot stopper. So a few of those shots have been pulled out from the memory banks. Andy Lindsay brings up one from an Andy Ritchie free kick when he was obviously a Morton player. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I actually got so bad that I used to phone up STV and say, "Going to lose that clip." And I remember, we all talk about teams and managers saying, "Oh, we want a pristine surface." And you were talking about it earlier, the park's looking magnificent just now. And that day, it was in the winter, and I'm not joking, the pitch was concrete. The pitch was frozen. And the referee had an inspection at 10 o'clock in the morning. He decided the game was going ahead. And do you know what we had to do? We had to get into Greaves Sports and buy like 16 pairs of Adidas Sambas because the ground was that hard. It was ridiculous. And but we'd not taken away anything for Andy. Andy had some amazing ability, and he could do anything for free kicks, corners. I mean, he used to shoot for the start of the game. He used to take the centre and have a shot at goal. That's what he was like. But no, I remember that game as clear as end. And unfortunately, I think it's the only clip that STV ever played with me at Thistle's that goal.
Kerr Gardner brought up a penalty save at Motherwell. He said you were going the wrong way and almost doubled back. I don't know if you remember much about your penalty saves.
No, I didn't have a lot of penalty saves. I remember one against Celtic, Murdo McLeod. And no, I didn't have a lot of penalty kick saves, but I'll believe him in that one.
Aye, well, you played a lot of football, so you're not going to remember every save, but the fans clearly do. Funnily enough, David Hines and brought up that penalty save against Murdo McLeod, and William Jarvis even said he felt you maybe had some of your best games just happened to be against Celtic for Thistle.
Yeah, because obviously you're under the cosh for a wee while and you're making saves, and that's what I loved. I loved being active. I loved doing that. But Robert Reed's your one for remembering saves. I think Robert remembers everything. Goals and saves, so he keeps you intact.
We'll run through a few more. David Calder and Bruce Stevens brought up a save from Sandy McNaughton, who played for Clydebank at the time, comparing it to Gordon Banks' Pele save. Wow. Graham Sutherland asking about a game at Shawfield when, I don't know if you remember it, you think the ball might have gone through the side of the net, but the net wasn't fastened. Remember that?
I remember it as clear as in, and I remember the start of the game. As you know, the Greyhound track was run it, and to walk onto the park, you had to go over a bit of wood that had slats on it. Yeah. And I remember the start of the game when I was walking across the slats, my studs got caught in the thing when it took both my boots off. Before the studs get caught in the hole. And I remember that start, and I do remember that as well. Boy had a shot, and obviously it was Shawfield, it wasn't like a massive part. And the ball, I could actually see the hole. They used to have wee clips around the hooks.
Yeah.
And when the ball went in the net, I could see there was 4 hooks undone. And I'm trying to explain to the referee, and he wasn't having it. So nothing I could do about it.
Yeah, Graham was asking if you were at it or if it was genuinely not a goal.
No, it was genuine, believe me.
Genuinely not a goal. A couple of other ones. James Malarkey brought up a save from Derek Johnson at Firhill. You've probably brought this up with Derek, whether it happened or not, but David Scott brought up a double save against Hearts in the 78-79 season. So loads and loads there, and obviously quite a few fans, including David Fraser, brought up for Scotland the Toshak save, which I guess is one of your iconic ones.
Yeah, I would think that. Important. I mean, all these saves you've had, they're probably better than the Toshak one, but I think the Toshak one was just an important one because whoever scored first was going to go to the World Cup, and it was us.
And to just talking about losing your boots, loads of images of you are obviously from the early days. You're not wearing gloves, and for younger fans, that just seems absolutely incredible, a bizarre concept. But when did gloves come along for you?
I keep looking at photographs, and the first gloves we used to wear were the old gardening gloves, the green gloves, the inner things. But you only wore them when it was wet. Right. You never wore them. You only wore them when it was wet, and then we progressed to do you remember the big yellow dustbin gloves? The dustbin gloves, the stick on it. Yeah. That was a progression. But then the first goalkeeper to start doing it was Sepp Meyer. He brought them on, and then it all kicked off for them. Yeah. No, but you're right, and I've tried on the gloves. I've tried on the modern day gloves, and seriously, I can't even feel my fingers on them. Aye. I mean, and I appreciate why they're the way they are, because the balls do move about quite a lot now, and goalkeepers tend not to catch the ball. They tend to just try and get it away. So if you've got a lot of padding, it'll help you to get the ball out of it. But yeah, it'd be amazing if you've seen a modern day goalkeeper to say, right, you're not wearing gloves today. Can you imagine? I mean, the older guys listen as well. Do you remember being at school when you'd need gloves and the mould master hit you?
I can even remember that. Yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake! So yeah, it's just the way the things have moved on.
Aye, no more cigarette before the game and no gloves and balls. Anyway, look, that was just a flavour. I'll send you a screen grab of all these comments because they're quite nice for you to read. But just shows you that the huge affection and high esteem with which you're held, and obviously that was recognised by the club with the Jackie Husband Stand Lounge being named after you and making the Hall of Fame, and just being a regular face in various roles at Firhill. Looking back, how proud does that make you? And what does Partick Thistle mean to you, Partick Thistle Football Club, today?
Oh, as far as my footballing career, it's everything. It's 2/3 of my life, 15 years of my playing career. As I said, I just loved every minute. I even loved it even more when Jackie invited me onto the board. It was a huge honour to be that. Obviously, things happened in between. My work obviously curtailed me going to Saturday games, but that's not the case now. So I think I've only missed about 3 games in the last couple of years. So I enjoy every minute of it there. It just means so much to me to be there and still meet people. If I go over to the stand, I still meet guys who I met, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and that's what Thistle's all about. It's all about the community and the people who just dig in there, good and bad. And I think that's what's good about the club. It's just a great place to be about, and I really do think this year, if we get off to a good start and do particularly well, I think the crowds will just soar because they all want to see a winning side, and I think this is the year that we could get our head round that. But no, the only thing I can't handle is watching the games. I just can't. If you ask Jackie and Jerry, you know, there's been numerous times with 5 minutes to go. I just can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay playing in front of 100,000, but to actually sit and watch and the tension, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
there's been some nervous times, but no, I enjoy every minute of it. It's great.
Brilliant. Well, let's for a fan who started going in the mid-80s, just to talk to you about the period before then. It's a bit of an education to learn about it. So hopefully, you know, when this video goes out, a lot of the older fans, if you like, can enjoy it, who watched you at the time, but a lot of the younger fans can appreciate, you know, who Alan Rough is beyond radio, if you like, because that's obviously what you've done in their lifetime. So thanks very much for being so generous with your time. One final question is obviously to find out from your time playing with the club who you would consider your strongest Thistle 11, which might be a bit of a tough one.
It is a tough one because obviously the team that won the League Cup in '71 was a tremendous team and tremendous players, and I've already spoken about how many of them have went on to be bigger and better things, coach. So most of my team is going to be a nucleus of that team. You know, obviously I played with numerous very, very good players. It's unfortunate when you pick a team, you're going to be leaving people out. So the nucleus of my side is my back four. I'm going to stick with John Hansen because I think John Hansen was, again, so far ahead of his time. I think, unfortunately, picked up some injuries and he never fulfilled, you know, where he should have been. So I'm going to go John Hansen. And believe it or not, I'm going to put his brother beside him, young Alan Hansen, who wasn't with us for long, but he was in the team. So I would think he's got to be in because of, you know, where he went and what he did in the game. And the other fullback, I'm going to go Alec Forsyth. Alec Forsyth moved to Man United, Rangers, you know, just a fantastic fullback. So he's got to be in. Another centre-half behind it, I'm going to put Jackie in because I think Jackie Campbell was a big influence in a lot of the younger boys in that team, and a right stalwart in the team for a huge number of years. I think Jackie was there for a very, very long time as well. So Jackie's my other centre-half. I'm going to go four in the middle.
Yep.
And I'm going to stick with Alec Ray, who was our captain in '71. Again, a big influence in all the other players round about him. And I'm going to stick with Ronnie Glavin because I think the two of them together were very, very good. Obviously, Ronnie went on to Celtic and into England with Barnsley. Dennis McQuaid has to be in there, you know, obviously for what he did at the club. And I've already spoken about Bobby Houston. Bobby wasn't part of the '71 team, but I thought Bobby could have went a lot further than what he did. I thought he was a tremendous winger, old-fashioned winger, and very underrated. But Jock Stein thought a lot of him, so I'm going to put him wide in my four. My two strikers up front has to be Jimmy Bowen. It has to be Jimmy Bowen for the amount of goals he scored. And to be up front with him, I'm going to go Dougie Sumner. Dougie Sumner, prolific goal scorer in the years that he was there, and certainly not a centre forward I would like to play against because he was up and at him, but his goal scoring was fantastic.
Outstanding 11, well, outstanding 10. What we've done with these 11s is we've told the person picking it not to put themselves in the team. I'm not sure you can leave Alan Rough out of an Alan Rough 11, so we'll leave it to you if you want to stick yourself in nets or you want to give a young keeper a chance.
I think there's been lots of keepers there or thereabouts. You know, I'm really interested in Jamie Sneddon this year. I think he's due a chance. I think he'll mature. I see a wee bit of him and myself. I think he just needs to be given a chance to get games under his belt, and we'll get the benefit of it. So, no, I'm not going to put anybody else in. I'm going to put myself in that
Quite
team.
Right.
But there has been a lot of good goalkeepers, and no, that's my 11.
Aye, well, that brings us nicely to a comment from a Bill Corner who said, before Alan Ruff, we had three good keepers, Freeburn, Niven, Ritchie, but Alan Ruff was the best I've ever seen. So not just a legend because of the numbers and the longevity, but the fact you performed so well between the sticks for so long for Thistle. It's been an absolute delight to speak to you today. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you back at Firhill, obviously, when it's safe for us all to do so. And fingers crossed, we're celebrating more success on the 50th anniversary of the greatest one of all.
Yeah, be great. Be a great year, hopefully, for everybody concerned.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Ruffy.
Cheers. Thanks, Brian.
Take care.
Cheers.